आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We began last week the study of Kena-Upanishad of Samaveda, and we clarified that we are going to study the mantras of this Upanishad along with a second commentary that Sri Adi Shankaracharya had written, which is known as vākya-bhāshya. Nothing prevents any scholar from writing multiple commentaries, though it is unusual. One may anyhow write. Adi Shankaracharya wrote two commentaries, probably at two different times, upon this Kena-Upanishad. Vākya-bhāshya is the second one chronologically. Before entering the mantras, Sri Shankaracharya raised a couple of issues, especially the issue of how to place action, secular or religious, Laukika or Vaidika, how to place and where to place it with regard to jnana, which is a matter of seeing rightly. Action is doing, whereas jnana is seeing. This is a very important subject because unless we are very clear about it, we would, by old habit, imagine that liberation, which is to come about by right seeing, will take place when we go about the matter with some doership also, with some attachment to doing this or that ritual, this or that even social service, this or that noble deed. Spirituality is not per se against good works, helping people, helping the society, praying God, performing some rituals for God, to please God. Spirituality per se is not opposed to it, but Adi Shankara, with his very precise remarks, shows that a certain point in the evolution of the seeker comes when the seeker will have to let go of the idea, of the notion of him being the doer. It's not exactly against work itself, but to look at oneself as the worker. I am a worker. I am a doer. I do this and I get that, etc. is a certain psychological condition which is opposed to the understanding I am pure Sat and Chit. Therefore, not literally condemning karma, but condemning the holding on to a certain false idea about our own true nature is the gist of what is well known as karma jnana samuchaya khandana, condemning the imagination that karma and jnana can go hand in hand. At the same time, what is unique about the Sambandha-bhāshya, which we saw in the last class, is that prematurely, if somebody lets go of karma, Shankaracharya is against that too. Prematurely means what? One is into sakama karma, let's say, desire prompted action in a gross way or in a subtle way, in a way known to oneself or in a way not so much known to oneself. One is performing actions with personal desire, and then because somewhere one read that karma and dana cannot go together, overnight one wants to stop doing karma. Shankaracharya says that doesn't work because from nisakama karma, selfish action, one has to graduate to nishkama karma. In other words, one has to come upon a high degree of vairagya, the seeking of position, the seeking of power, seeking of name and fame, validation of who we are in the society. Alas, there is a lot of profound psychology here. Please note, as we are set to enter the mantra proper, I'll make a couple of comments. Even many people who have apparently renounced have not really renounced. You know why? Even as sannyasis may be, a man may be seeking a certain approval from the society, certain validation, certain recognition, certain appreciation from others. In other words, a man may be clinging to a certain desirable image of himself. So that clinging has to get weakened. When any of us increasingly becomes clear in what or with regard to what, I don't have to prove myself to anybody. I don't have to become anything. I don't have to win the approval or admiration of people in different parts of the country or of the world. In this way, that is vairagya. When one reaches that kind of nishkama karma, one may be doing certain things, but one sees, I am doing these with no desire anymore. Then one may give up karma, one ought to give up karma. So, this we discussed last time too. Summarily, for years and years, for lives and lives, we have been in desire prompted action through spiritual exercises, satsanga, japa, dhyana, tapa, and so on. We have a phase of nishkama karma. Then we are to arrive at a point where we let go of karma literally and keep contemplating, studying, and appreciating our true nature. At the end of the last class, I explained a certain expression in the Shānkarabhāshya, vākya-bhāshya atma-vijnānāya kene-shitam ityādi ārambha. The Upanishad mantras, starting with kene-shitam, begin, they are taken up for whom? For somebody who is vyavritta Bahya Buddhi. I received a couple of messages inquiring what it actually means. Bahya Buddhi is, even as you and I are engaged in so-called spirituality, Bahya Buddhi, the Buddhi which is externalized, is a certain mindset where we are seeking something outside. People's applause, people saying, great spiritualist this lady is, this man is. Or, of course, sense pleasures. Psychological bondage is more powerful. But first one manages or one arrives at a high degree of control over indriyas and then comes to see the falsity of aspiring for a certain image, becoming somebody. So desires are gross and subtle. So Bahya Buddhi is nothing but the state of mind where one seeks something from outside Bahya to feel good. When something from outside or anything from outside is incidental, you are not seeking it. Somebody garlanded you, you notice. You did not want it. Another time they did not garland you, it doesn't matter to you. Then you are a nivritta or vyavritta bahya buddhihi, a high state of true dispassion, born of lot of viveka. In the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna talks about someone who has mounted the horse of Vairagya. Aruda. One is trying to mount the horse of high degree of Vairagya, and another seeker or the same person after a certain length of time, not just by the passage of time. If you just allow the clock to move, nothing will happen. On your part, you do more of spiritual exercises, asana or pranayama, study or japa, prayer or social service, or doing Vedic rituals or religious practices, more and more with desire only for chitta shuddhi, not some external gratification. Then you come to the point where you actually let go. So vyavratta bahya buddhehe, somebody in whom that externalization of the mind has ceased, vyavratta. For such a person, Upanishad is meant. But all of us are studying Upanishad. We are not vyavratta bahya buddhi, if you say. No wonder, in spite of studying Upanishad for many years, you are nowhere near liberation or that Jivan Mukti or that unconditional love or that unconditional state of happiness, because you are not a Vyavritta Bahya Buddhi. Therefore, if you are not a Vyavritta Bahya Buddhi and study Upanishads, nothing prevents you from studying Upanishad, but the study of Upanishads will not deliver the goods for you. It may give you some other side benefits, but the main prayojana of Upanishadic study is an inner explosion, if we may use a dramatic expression. The ego in us goes into smithereens, gets pulverized, so to say. No ego, no separate self. Outwardly, we look like anybody else, but inwardly, we have a completely different perception of our own existence. For that to happen, we have to arrive at a high state of vairagya, born of understanding. Then study the Upanishad, the transformation takes place. In this second class on this Kena-Upanishad, we begin the mantra itself. The very first mantra of this Upanishad with 4 sections, all of them together having 33 mantras, is this Kena-Shitam. Let's open meanwhile the first slide, which has gone to all of you. Some of you have not received. Please do write to hawaiiforum@gmail.com. You will receive it. So the first slide says Kena-Upanishad with vākya-bhāshya. Keneshitam patati preshitam manah kena prana pratama praiti yuktaha keneshitam vācamimam vadanti chakshushrotram kau devo yunakti. Willed by whom? Kena ishitam. Willed by whom does the directed mind, preshitam manaha, go towards its object, patati? One question. The second question is, being directed by whom? Kena. Kena means by whom. This Upanishad is named based on the first word of the mantras, Kena, and the Upanishad is Kena-Upanishad. Like Ishavasya, there also the first word of the entire Upanishad of just 18 mantras is Ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. The Upanishad itself is named Ishavasya Upanishad, or sometimes just Isha Upanishad, because Isha is the word. Isha plus Upanishad, Isha Upanishad. Kena Upanishad. We have a good friend in Washington, D.C., a Swamiji. He sometimes says, nowadays we are studying, or I am teaching Vākya-Upanishad, for humor, because Kena means by what. So he calls this Vākya-Upanishad. But let's stick to the Sanskrit name, Kena-Upanishad. Then there is the third part. The second part is prana. Prana here means breath. Adi Shankara's Bhashyas makes it clear. Prana, which is vital energy, which is everywhere in the body. In fact, the concept of prana is such, there is prana outside too. If some leaves are moving upon a tree, that is prana. The movement of planets, movement of stars, movement of anything, anywhere, the automobiles, wherever there is movement, there is prana. Prana is outside and inside. But here in this mantra, prana is nasika bhavaha, says Shankara. We will see that part. By context, it is the breathing. How come breathing is going on in anybody who is up and alive? What is causing that? Then, directed by what or willed by whom does speech come about? Directed by what do people utter? And eyes, chakshuhu, shrotram, ears. Which effulgent being prompts all this? Devaha yunakti. So 4 questions are asked, or you may regard it as even 5 questions. Let's examine what it means. What is the significance of this? We go to the second slide for this session, in which Adi Shankara himself, in the commentary upon the first mantra, raises a issue, very simple way. A chariot is moving. In olden days, well-to-do people had their chariots, right? And in the east or in the west, everywhere, wagon. One of the popular banks in the United States, Wells Fargo Bank, has the logo, has the emblem, or has the picture in all their literature. A wagon where someone is taking that wagon, taking that cart, driven by horses, where a lot of goods are placed, I guess, upon the wagon. So, Ratha, chariot or a cart or a wagon is seen to be moving. And is a Ratha sentient? It is said in the selected portion of the Shānkarabhāshya, Ratha Adinam Chetana Vat Adishtitanam Eva Pravritti. In order that a chariot moves, just the wheels, just the body of the chariot doesn't make it move. There is somebody sitting upon the chariot, and then there are the horses. Even if there is nobody sitting, the horses are sentient. The horses, for some reason, pull the chariot moves. So, Ratha, the chariot, by itself is achetana, jada. For the jada to move, there has to be chetana, something sentient. Chetanavat adishtitanam eva rathanam ratha adinam pravrittihi. If a ratha is anadishtita, not presided over by a sentient being, the ratha would just remain there. Newton's first law. A stationary object remains stationary, or a moving object keeps moving at whatever speed it has been moving. There will be no change, no acceleration or no deceleration unless an external force is applied. So if something is getting accelerated, we find out what is accelerating it. Something which was stationary till a moment ago starts moving. Who moved it? Who moved my cheese? Is another expression in the context. So Adi Shankara here says, Ratha Adhinam Chetanavad Adishtitanam Pravritti Na Anadishtitanam. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa made matters much simpler by telling his devotees, look, if you keep a bowl of water, a steel vessel filled with water, cut some vegetable pieces, maybe potato pieces, put them in it, and stand there looking at the pieces of vegetables. They will just be there in the water. Suppose this vessel is placed upon a gas stove and slowly the water gets heated, water begins to boil, then the pieces of vegetables start moving up and down circularly or back and forth. After a couple of minutes, turn the gas oven off. As the gas oven is turned off, the fire is put out, you find all the pieces of vegetables again become quiet. So there is the energy coming from the fire in the analogy. But even fire is able to heat, wind is able to blow, sun is able to rise and set in the morning and in the evening. Microcosmically or macrocosmically, everything happens prompted by something which is sentient. That is the concept of God. That is the concept of the pure self in the Vedanta. Acharya Shankara makes a case for it. Mana adinam cha acetananam pravritti drishyate. Chariot was how it began. Now, even our mind is like chariot. By itself, the mind would not move towards any object. Good or bad thoughts, either of them cannot take place unless there is a sentient principle enlivening the mind. Mana adina acetanana pravrittihi drishyate tadhi tadhi. Tadhi means tadhi lingam. Lingam here means a sign, a mark, a characteristic. Lingam, leenam gamayati iti lingam. When you see the potato pieces moving, you see that there must be something below. You see, is the gas stove on? Oh, yes, stove is on. I can see the blue flame. That's why these are moving. So, first you did not see the flame. You only saw the pieces of vegetable moving. That movement is a linga. It linam gamayati. It shows, if you have the eyes to see, certain principle. In the analogy, it is fire which is behind its movement. Taddilingam chetanavataha adhishtatuhu astitve. Astitva is asti means there is. In the existence of a certain presiding principle, adhishtatra, and which is sentient, chetana vat. Chetana means life. Chetana vat is something that has life. Dhana is wealth. Dhanavan is somebody who has wealth. Chetanavan, Chetanavati, or the crude form is Chetanavat. So Adi Shankara gives a wonderful, to the point explanation for the very first mantra. Kene shitam patati preshitam manaha. He is straight away asking for what is the sentient principle which is behind the functioning of a whole lot of aspects of our personality. Mind, there is speech, there is prana, there is chakshu, shrotra, eyes and ears. All of them. How come? So the Vedanta seeker doesn't just ask, why am I getting bad thoughts? He rather asks, why am I getting bad thoughts, or for that matter, good thoughts? Any thought, any moment, Vedanta tries to go above good and bad. Vedanta is not happy if we only set to rest or put to rest the bad and there is just the good. Both bad and good are questioned. How come these occur at all? Both dualities, as we call them, good and bad, day and night, cold and heat, praise and insult. What is our life except a succession of these pairs of opposites? In a single day, we are energetic at some time, then after a while, tired. We are hopeful at some time, and at another time of the same day, probably, we are losing all hope. Is it worth living anymore? We ask. So, what are these opposites? Both the sides of these opposites, or both the members of these opposites, need to be questioned. How come these happen? There must be a sentient principle. And therefore, Kena Ishitam, Kene Shitam Patati Preshitam Manaha. So, in the Pada-bhāshya, you see there is a first bhāshya commentary, but we are mainly seeing the second commentary. But one or two points deserve to be referred to quickly. In the Pada-bhāshya, Sri Shankaracharya goes even to the Pada, to the word Ishita. Is the word Ishita correct? He says, no, really speaking, it must be Ishta. You see, in Sanskrit, we have, like in any other language, the past passive participle. In English language, you have go, went, gone, right? Eat, ate, eaten, the third member of the three. In Sanskrit, gam becomes gata, bhuj becomes bhukta, pa, pibati, drinks, becomes pita. So for ish dhatu, is ishita correct or ishta correct? Adi Shankara in Pada-bhāshya goes into some subtleties of every word. Ishita is a certain license taken by the Vedic scriptures. According to Paninian modern grammar, ish, desired or prompted, directed, becomes ishta. It prayogastu chandasaha. And then there is another word in the mantra. If you have eyes upon the mantra, Kene-shitam patati preshitam. There also it should have been preshta, pra plus ishta, preshta. Right? So how come Ishita, Preshita, both are certain Vedic license? Modern grammar would not permit it. All right, this is grammar, this is language. Coming back to the essence of the teaching, what is said is how does it happen at all? So we go to the third slide where Adi Shankara takes the topic, takes the matter forward. He says, well, Keneshitam, which according to Paninian grammar should be Kena Ishtam, not Ishitam. Keneshtam, Kasya Ichhamatrena. Ichhamatrena means by mere desire, in a manner of saying. Really speaking, the pure self doesn't desire also. When we go to these very high level of philosophy, the regular language falls short of what is required. Therefore, going by regular language, the pure self, as though, not really, as though prompts the mind to move. Ichha matrena. Manaha patati gacchati. Swavishaye niyamena vyapriyate. The mind engages. Vyapriyate means vyaparam karoti. Swavishaye. Somebody is much interested in music. She thinks about some raga. This raga is so beautiful. Another raga which is slightly different also is so charming. Swavishaya. Somebody else's mind engages itself maybe with some mathematical issue. Somebody else's mind at a certain point of time engages with what I could have tomorrow morning for my breakfast. Why not this evening go out and eat? And what will I eat? So engages with the Vishaya, something to eat, sense object. How does it happen? So one more word that needs to be examined here is Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha. What is meant by manaha? In the commentaries of Adi Shankara, at a number of places, you get very nice definitions for words which are used frequently. One example is right here. Manute anena iti manaha. Manaha is that by which one thinks, that by which one reasons. Manute anena. One thinks, like I gave the example of somebody interested in music, thinks about music, somebody interested in food, thinks about food, somebody interested in maths, thinks about maths. So Vishaya, Kanchit Vishayam Prati, Naraha Manute. He reflects, he thinks. So it is not one of the four, elsewhere Antakarana Chatushtaya is talked about. Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. But here, entire Antakarana. Therefore, in the selected lines of the Shānkarabhāshya, Manute anena iti vijnana nimittam antakaranam manaha. Vijnana nimittam antakaranam. The antakarana, inner instrument, acts, then certain knowledge takes place. Certain understanding takes place. So, Keneshitam padati preshitam manaha, when it is said, the question is about the entire antakarana, which is mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. Mana is generally the emotional, indecisive kind of thoughts. Buddhi is the decisive, kind of thought, though the decision could be wrong sometimes, that's a different matter. But you say, I'm sure of this. Then it's buddhi. Later you say, oh, I was at fault. I was not right. But at a moment when you have taken a decision or you conclude, that is called buddhi. And then there is chitta, a whole lot of memories. And ahankar, a sense of I did this, I am doing this, I will do it, I got this, I am getting this, and I will get this. Kartrutva, bhoktritva, etc. are in what is called ahankar. So mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar all together is antakarana. And this antakarana is operational, is active. So what is making it active? Therefore, this question, which is the first mantra of the Kena-Upanishad, is a very significant question. Just as in Bhakti Marga, if a spiritual seeker is deeply drawn to the question, where is God? Who is God? How do I find him? Others would say this is a fool. Does he not have something better to do? Why is he wondering about God? He should earn money. He should rise in society. The world always puts an endless list of things to do before anybody who might otherwise want to go for spirituality. If a young girl or a young boy wants to join an ashram, with all their might, the family, the friends, relatives, all of them would say, why are you going? Why do you have to join an ashram? Be here only. We will give you everything. Don't join an ashram. Because that inquiry into God in Bhakti Marga and inquiry into is there something about my existence which is other than the assemblage of physical body, mind, senses, prana, etc., organs of action. In Vedanta, there is a word often used, sanghata. Sanghata, in essence, is like sangha, many things put together. This personality of ours is many things put together. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and vak prana, uh, payu, upastha, hands, legs, speech, and payu and upastha. Prana doesn't come there. Karmendriyas. Then you have pancha pranas, mana, buddhi. All of them have come together like a machine where many parts have come together and the machine is working. When you turn, if it's electric, turn the switch on, it starts working. So sanghata. Sanghatad atiriktam kinchidasti is a certain intuitive grasp that a student has got. And when such a student wonders, what is prompting this personality? He has come a long way. It's a major milestone for you and me to be deeply contemplative about the possibility of the pure self. Normally, we think we are this body only. Normally, we think, oh my, I have got obese now, or someone, I am underweight. Oh my hair is turning gray, or someone else says, oh, I lost all my hair. Nowadays, I have less energy. So, we are identified with the physical body or the prana or the indriya or the, we are identified. But here is a student who says, I have thought enough in olden days about body, mind, etc. Now I want to know something other than the body, which makes the body appear alive. Therefore, Kena is a $1,000,000 question. Kena ishitam patati. One is no more seeing the vessel, the water, and the moving pieces of potato. One is asking, what makes these pieces of vegetable move? Let me see below. Oh, the gas stove is on. The blue flames I can see. Like that, can you and I see our own pure self? The whole Upanishad is meant for opening our eyes to the pure self that you and I are. Now we go further to the fourth slide, where Adi Shankara makes an important clarification. And he says, you see, though the word preshita, preshana in regular language also means sending, prompting, directing, sending. A man sends his servant to the post office. Go get some postal stamps. The servant says, all right, master, here I go. Shankaracharya gives the example here. Nahi shishyan iva mana adini vishayebhyah preshayati atma. Vishayebhyah, I take it as the fourth case, for the sake of Vishayas. Vishayaya, Vishayabhyam, Vishayebhyah. Because otherwise Vishayebhyah can mean fifth case, from Vishayas. The fifth case of Vishaya Shabda, Vishayat, Vishayabhyam, Vishayebhyah. Fourth case also plural, Vishayaya, Vishayabhyam, Vishayebhyah. So I take it as fourth case. Like you say, Namaha Shivaya. Salutations to Shiva. Namaha Ramaya. Or in performing a homa or yajna, you offer a ball of rice and you say Indraya. This ball of rice I am offering, it has to go to Indra. Of course, Agni Deva takes it, the carrier. Therefore, he is called, Havya-Vahana. Havya is what is offered into fire, and fire god, Agni Devata, Vahana, takes it and delivers it to Indra or Varuna or Mitra or Tvashta. There are so many devas. So, Vishayebhyaha preshayati atma. Just as a guru, nahi shishya aniva. That's how it begins, right? A guru may say to a bunch of students, look, please, after breakfast, all of you go to that other town and hand over this parcel to my friend who is the teacher over there in another Gurukula. The Acharya of this Gurukula sends a parcel to another village, another Gurukula through Shishyas. There is actually the Guru saying, the Guru telling the students, take this and give there. Like that, does the pure self actually have action, gross or subtle, loud or soft, very explicit or a hidden way? Shankaracharya says no. Nahi shishyaniva mana adini vishayebhyaha preshayati atma. So earlier I said this is a limitation of language. Any Vedanta student will get this doubt at some point. So if the Atma is prompting, doesn't that prompting also amount to an action? Then the Atma is a karta. Atma is a doer. We say some analogies, some illustrations, some examples are given to begin with, but then it is clarified. Therefore, you must have sustained study. Don't study or don't attend one Vedanta class once in a fortnight, then jump to some conclusions. Study, listen to masters again and again. Then you will find that there is a certain thought development. This is not like a teacher explicitly saying to the students, go hand this over to my friend in that other village. Like that, Atma Vishayebhyaha Manaha Adini na preshayati. Atma does not send the mind, direct the mind, towards its objects, for the object, towards the objects, etc., in the direction of the objects. Mana Adini na preshayati. Atma, in the very presence of the Atma, these things happen. The second line says, Vivikta Nitya Chit Swarupatayatu. It is distinct from everything else. Vivikta. Vivikta means Viveka Krita. Nitya Chit, it is just pure principle of knowing. Nitya Chit Swarupatayatu Nimitta Matram. It is as though the cause, without a cause-effect relationship. Therefore, analogies, though they have some limitations, come pretty close. Sri Ramakrishna's example of the flames making the pieces of vegetable move is a wonderful example. It comes closer because the flames don't literally, as our eyes can see, go in and push the piece of vegetable. They create heat. Atma doesn't create heat also. Atma does not create cold also by mere presence. As it is said, Atma is the prompter only as unattached, eternal. Vivikta is translated by Swami Gambhirananda as unattached. I said distinct, separate. Okay, Vivikta, unattached, Nitya, eternal, consciousness, Chit, Swarupataya, Nimitta Matram. And then expression is used, which without some footnotes, you and I would not understand. The expression is Nitya Chikitsa Adhishtatravat. What is this Nitya Chikitsa? So, footnotes by scholars who draw this meaning from maybe Anandagiri, Vyakya. There are commentaries on Shankara's commentary. Some of these are obtained from there. We have put in the bracket, taking it from Swami Gambhirananda, like a chakora bird. So, what is meant? It is said, when a king is about to eat food, a king is most precious to the kingdom. People take the maximum care. Therefore, even in modern times where there is no king, but presidents of the country, prime ministers of the country, when they go here and there, either in their own country or abroad, their food is scrutinized with greatest care. Once I had the opportunity to meet the Vice President of India. So, his name was Hamid Ansari. He had come to Varanasi and to the campus where I was living that time. And because the Vice President had come to the campus, snacks and tea and coffee were all made ready for some 100 people. And everybody was enjoying. But the Vice President did not touch anything. The retinue around him, his staff, had probably, that was a custom. He did not touch. He spoke to all of us. He noticed me at a distance. To me also, he said something and greeted me. How are you? Where are you from? Or something. We had a quick 1 minute chat. But he was not eating, not taking tea, not taking coffee. Because if presidents, prime ministers, vice presidents, etc., go around and eat anything that is offered by anybody, by any institution, there is a risk. There could be poison. Intentionally or otherwise, there could be something terribly wrong with the food being offered somewhere. Coming back, it is clarified even in the Gita Press translation of the vākya-bhāshya, where it is said to take extra care about a king. He should not become a victim of poison. When food is made ready, first that food is placed before a bird called chakora. And in this interesting case, this is subject to your shraddha. There may be a scientific question on it, that's a different matter. But in a certain setting, it is said the chakora bird has certain extraordinary capacity. The moment it sees poisonous food, the moment it smells poisonous food, it has some sixth sense, as though by merely seeing food where there is poison, it is said the eyes of the chakora bird change their color. Gita Press says, विष मिश्रित अन्न को देखकर चकोर की आंखों का रंग बदल जाता है. इस प्रकार चकोर की केवल सन्निधि मात्र से ही राजा के भोजन में प्रवृत्ति हो जाती है. So if the eyes of the chakora bird don't change their color, then Raja says, oh, this is safe, he eats. So just by seeing sannidhi matra, that is the bird is at a distance. Raja, the king or the king's advisors look at the chakora bird. If the chakora's eyes change their color, then they say, Raja, don't eat this. There's some problem with this food. If the color of the eyes doesn't change, it's safe, go ahead. So there was a certain custom. Today we may have some other custom, some other ways, but the chakora example means nitya chikitsa. Every day there is testing. Here chikitsa is testing and ensuring that the king is not affected. All right, let the analogy, the setting be anything. What is primarily hinted at here is by mere presence, by not doing anything even in the slightest way. Now we go to the last slide for the session. That just clarifies what is meant by prana. Because in the mantra proper, Kena-Shitam padati praityamana, Kena-Shitam, Kena prana pratama praiti uktaha. The prana shabda. So what is prana here? We said this already before. Prana is nasika bhavaha prakaranat. By context, prakarana means by context. It is the breath that goes through the nose. In the nose we see its presence. I took in breath and I breathe out. Nasika bhavaha, nasika sthitaha prana. Then an adjective is given in the mantra proper. Kena-Shitam patati preshitam manaha, Kena pranaha pratamaha praiti yukta. What is the meaning of pratama? As the translation also says, prana is called pratama first because when hand moves or when I shake my head or when I breathe or when I think, when I speak, in everything there's a movement. Before any movement in any organ can take place, the prana first has to move. Pratamatvam hi kriyayaha prana nimittatvat. So, pratama it's called pratama because all kriya is first made possible by prana moving. Take a case of an electric iron box. You turn it on and then you quickly touch it. Has it become hot? It has become hot. Ah, yeah, it's hot enough. Now let me start ironing. Before the iron box becomes hot, electricity would have passed through the inner element. First flows electricity then the iron box becomes hot. Likewise, prana moves first, then the eyes move towards their objects, ears move towards their objects, and so on. Therefore, the adjective. Therefore, in this class, we have actually gone up to the word meanings as given in the mantra proper and then in the vākya-bhāshya. So, it's a very profound question. Behind and beneath all that is known and noticed with which we are highly identified, is there something about us, about our existence, unknown, unnoticed, and at the same time more primary than all these? Because of its presence, all these do whatever they are doing. So spirituality, especially the pursuit of self-knowledge, is a quest for that dimension of our existence which is not born, does not die, does not vary, does not decay, does not grow big, nothing happens to it. Doesn't grow, doesn't decay. It's a quest. And that quest is set in motion. The quest begins here right away with the very first mantra, Keneshitam padati preshitam manaha. Om Namah Paramarashibhyo Namah Paramarashibhyaha.